Session 208. Good evening. I am glad to see such a lively discussion immediately before a session, which shows you are on your toes. I am aware of several matters that you would like me to discuss, and we shall cover them. There are, however, several points that I would like to make. My remark in our last session concerning the aid that Ruber subconsciously gave me in connection with the voice effect did not have to do with the inner voice heard by Philip. I believe this was perhaps an error in your paragraphing. Ruber helped me in producing that voice that he himself heard, simply because of certain electromagnetic alternations that occur within the trance state. And the Ruber was in a trance state upon the specific occasion of which I was speaking. It was easier for me to make certain realignments and adjustments of a necessary nature. The other point that I wanted to make was that while your physical time, or clock time, has no overall basic reality, and is not a primary reality that runs through various fields or systems, it is nevertheless an electromagnetic reality within your own system, for you have created it on mental terms. It is therefore some force to be reckoned with. If it were a primary reality, you would not escape from it even in the sleeping state. Those realities which are primary and basic, you can never escape from. This should give you an idea. For those realities which run through all systems, and which are primaries, are those which exist for you in all conditions of consciousness and under any circumstances. Those realities, however, which appear only in certain stages of consciousness, are secondaries. This is perhaps one of the most important bits of information I have given you. For if you are bright enough, and I think that you are, then you are a yardstick by which to measure the nature of primary reality, from which all other manifestations are spun. I have been leading up to this point in my own way, for the dream experiments that we plan will enable you to accumulate in time a list of primaries. I want you, however, to come across this knowledge on your own, through these experiments, for you will learn more that way. If ever in a dream experience you define gravity, then gravity is not a primary reality, but only a manifestation within your own physical system. If clock time is escaped within the dream state, then clock time is not a primary. What you cannot escape within any range of consciousness can be called a primary condition, and you may capitalize the term. Incidentally, if it is not now known by your scientists, it will be shortly discovered that the physical organism does not age in sleep at the same rate at which it ages in the waking state. Aging, therefore, is not a primary. Again, this does not mean that secondary conditions such as aging and gravity and clock time do not have effects within your system, obviously. It is not that these must be recognized as secondary conditions that do not therefore basically affect the inner self, which is to a large degree independent of your system. A recognition of the differences between primary and secondary conditions can, however, allow you to minimize the effect of the secondary conditions to some considerable degree. Here, now, once more, let me repeat that thoughts are definite electromagnetic realities. Therefore, being actions, they affect all other actions, and if I repeat this in session after session, I do so that it will never be forgotten. Therefore, these secondary conditions are strengthened through the very act or misact of thinking that they are primary, rather than secondary elements in action. Two men, for example, of precisely the same physical age, of precisely the same physical condition, will be in completely different states of mind or contents of effectiveness and of strength, as a direct result of their inner beliefs as to their relative freedom within the framework of the physical system in which they exist. The man who does not realize his basic independence from the physical system will not have the same freedom within it. He will be at all times a prisoner of clock time and of aging, for he will consider these the primary conditions under which he must operate. And the action or actions involved in this belief will therefore act upon the physical cells of his body with vengeful force, because he has himself directed them to do so. You will find it a most rewarding experience once these experiments have been begun, for you will yourselves discover the difference between primary and secondary conditions. Obviously, the secondary conditions are to some extent necessary for your survival as a physical organism, but you are more than a physical organism now, and you shall be other than a physical organism in your future. And the conditions that are necessary, the primary conditions that are necessary for your existence as other than a physical organism, already exist, therefore, and can be perceived and studied with the equipment which is a part of every individual. Are your hands tired? Ralph said, no. They said, we will shortly take a brief break. I have had several matters to discuss with you. Our sessions in general, the matter of spontaneity and discipline, your own fears, rather natural enough, concerning any subconscious effect I might have on Ruber. Both of you have been concerned with these questions, and they should be discussed. I would not like the matter of the sessions in general, and the subconscious influence question, to go by the board, and in one way or another, we must find time for those matters. I could have spoken at any time on the question of spontaneity and discipline. It may appear that Ruber is too easy or too willing to hold sessions. However, his ego is very well in control, so well in control that on occasion when I would have spoken on these very matters, I have not been allowed to do so. Of course, I realize the time limitations and others. One small point, I have never manipulated his subconscious in any manner, and both of you called me the evening of our last unscheduled session. We will devote some time to this whole matter. Take your break. Now, if an experience is a part of the waking state, but not a part of the sleeping state, if it is part of the sleeping state, but not a part of the waking state, then it is not a primary experience. This, again, is not to say that it is not real, but that it is not a primary reality that is more or less constant for the inner self. If an experience is a part of all levels of consciousness, this includes the trance state, then it is a primary experience. Identity of the inner self operates very well within primary conditions. It is dependent upon primary conditions. Its manipulation of primary conditions gives it the knowledge of itself. Identity is retained within the dream state. Is it not? Rob said, yes. They said, yet, within the dream state, the familiar physical prompts sometimes disappear. The inner eye operates very well without them. In order to manipulate a physical reality, however, the inner eye needs a self that is acclimated to physical conditions, hence the ego. As you know, therefore, we have differentiated between an alter ego, who manipulates within physical reality, and an inner ego who directs the activities of the inner self. Now, then, the next step should indeed be clear. In the man, the ego deals with secondary realities, and in the man, the inner ego deals with primaries. Nevertheless, primaries also exist within the physical universe, and the secondaries appear often as prompts within the dream world. Again, none of these issues are clear-cut, and the distinctions, many of them, are for simplicity's sake. Many primaries will show secondary characteristics. For example, within your clock time, there are definite primary characteristics of time as it exists in a primary condition. Once more, even the word time is misleading. But within the boundaries of your clock reality, every individual feels at times. But you see that the use of the word itself binds us. But every individual feels now and then the primary sense of existence that is not arbitrarily divided into moments and hours. And he therefore escapes from a secondary condition into the realization of a primary reality behind it. A consistent, carefully recorded, and extended examination of the dream state will, once more, permit you to compare those conditions and the realities which show themselves in both the waking and the dream states. I believe that it is close to our appointment time. I will allow you a brief break. Now, give us a moment. Simply Joseph, for our test turn off your machine, please. Ralph said, I did so. They said, thank you. I picked up a strong connection with Dr. Instring and 2 other men this evening, with whom he has been particularly involved. One is some years younger and one approximately in any case of his own generation. One has dark hair, one has blondish or white hair. This second man wears glasses. I will change this. Forgive me. The dark-haired man wears glasses. They have been together today, or are together now. The 3 of them in an office, I believe, though I am not certain. Dr. Intring's office. It seems that although this is somehow connected with the university, that their particular conversation has to do with a matter that will be carried on without official university knowledge. I believe a woman is involved, though she is not at this meeting, but seems to have something to do with the matter under consideration. One man has recently been on a long trip, the light-haired man. There is a secondary mention of money, though I do not believe it is directly connected with the main matter. I also believe that Dr. Intring had a drink of a liquor, which he is not accustomed to drinking as a rule, that he would not ordinarily choose. For example, I see the woman in a connection with yellow or gold. She is in the background of this matter. I believe there are plans for a future meeting when snow will be on the ground. One of the men has a daughter who is sickly, ailing at present, perhaps with an illness connected with the lungs. An indication here of the possibility of an automobile accident for one of the men within a 6-month period. On a corner by a large brick building, red building, the accident possibility not applying to Dr. Instring. It is not a fatal accident for the man involved in any case, and again, this is only a possibility. And many circumstances could change this. The light-haired man is the one with which I feel the accident connection, and if it occurs, it will be a direct result of his reaction to a letter. Dr. Instring has been to a store this evening. There are some papers due. He is late with them on a business matter. I seem also to think of a lease, but do not know to what this refers. Now, You may take a short break and we will continue, or end the session as you prefer. Ralph said, "We'll end it then." They said, "Then I wish you all my heartiest regards and good wishes." Ralph said, "Good night, Seth."